All right, so we're talking MAANG companies today.
Sounds ambitious.
Definitely. And, their interview process, it's intense.
They don't mess around.
Not at all. So that's why we're diving into this guide, Cracking the Code, your ultimate guide to landing a MAANG job.
Always good to have a roadmap.
Totally. It's like having a secret weapon in your back pocket.
And believe me, you'll need every advantage you can get.
For real. So this guide, it kicks off with this really cool concept called the coder ikigai. Have you heard of that?
I have, actually.
Yeah.
It's about finding your purpose in the coding world, right?
Yeah. Like, why are you even doing this? What gets you fired up about code? Which I think is super relevant when you're aiming for these really competitive roles.
It's not just about knowing the technical stuff. It's about understanding your own motivations, what makes you tick.
I like that. What makes you tick? And how that lines up with the company's mission too, right?
Exactly.
So it's like finding that sweet spot where your passion and skills kind of intersect.
And where the company's needs meet your aspirations.
Totally. And they break this coder ikigai down into 4 pillars. We'll tackle the first 2 today, which are the Captain's Command and your Mushroom Kingdom Adventure.
Those are some interesting names.
I know, right? But trust me, they totally make sense in context. So first up, the Captain's Command. It's all about taking charge of your job search.
I like it. Being proactive.
Exactly. Imagine you're the captain of your ship. You're not just along for the ride.
You're charting the course.
Yes. And just like a captain wouldn't set sail without a map, you don't want to jump into this blindly.
Research is key.
Absolutely. Understand the role, the company, the whole 9 yards.
And those job descriptions. They're your treasure maps.
Oh, I like that. They can be so much more than just bullet points.
Right. They're telling you exactly what they're looking for. You just have to know how to read between the lines.
Okay, so you've got your map. You've studied the waters. Now it's time to engage. And that's where this Captain's Command really comes into play during the interview.
Oh, interesting. So it's about how you present yourself.
Yes. It's about asking insightful questions, showing them you're not just there to follow orders.
You're there to lead.
Or at least think critically and be an active participant.
Because those interviewers, they can spot a passive listener a mile away.
Oh yeah, they want to see that spark, that curiosity.
It shows you're actually engaged and interested, not just going through the motions.
Totally. It's like you're already picturing yourself in that role, brainstorming ideas.
Oh, showing initiative.
Exactly. Okay, ready for a bit of a shift. From captain to, well, something a little more whimsical.
Hit me with it.
It's time for your Mushroom Kingdom Adventure, the second pillar of Coder Ikigai.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does Mario fit into all of this?
Well, think about it. The job search, it's got its ups and downs, just like navigating those colorful worlds.
Those tricky jumps, those hidden traps.
Exactly. You're going to face rejections, setbacks, maybe even a coding challenge that makes you want to rage quit.
Been there.
Right. But that's the thing. Just like Mario, you've got to be resilient.
You've got to dust yourself off and try again.
And learn from those mistakes, too.
Each one makes you stronger.
Like leveling up your skills.
And just like in those games, you don't want to face Bowser alone.
True that. Having a support system is key.
People who get it, who've been there.
Nope.
Exactly. Because let's be real, applying for MAANG companies, it can be intimidating.
No kidding. You start to question yourself, am I good enough?
Imposter syndrome at its finest.
The struggle is real.
Yeah.
And it can really make those rejections sting even more.
Oh, totally. You start taking it personally, like maybe you're not cut out for this.
But here's the thing. Everyone feels that way sometimes.
Even seasoned pros.
Especially seasoned pros. The more you achieve, the higher the stakes get. The more you have to lose.
That's true. I guess it's like that saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly. And those doubts, they never really go away. You just learn to manage them.
So how do you do that? How do you quiet that inner critic?
Well, first you have to acknowledge it. Recognize that it's just imposter syndrome. It's not reality.
It's like that little voice is lying to you.
Exactly. And then you combat those lies with evidence.
Yeah.
Remind yourself of your accomplishments, your skills, your experience.
And celebrate those wins no matter how small.
Yes. Each application you send, each interview you land, it's a step in the right direction.
Speaking of applications, the guide actually mentioned this interesting statistic. Apparently, only 29% of job seekers land a job within their first 10 tries.
Really? Only 29%?
That's what they said. It was from the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Uh-huh. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better about all those rejections I've gotten.
Right. It's totally normal to not get it on the first try, or the second, or even the 10th.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
I love that. Okay, so you're slaying the imposter syndrome, you're in it for the long haul. Now it's time to actually face those coding challenges.
A moment of truth.
And this is where the third pillar comes in. The Lego blocks technique.
Lego blocks. Is this where we get to build a coding castle?
Not quite, but it's a really cool analogy. Think about it. When you build something complex with Legos, you don't just start sticking pieces together randomly, right?
Well, I mean, I did when I was a kid.
But there were probably a lot of tears and frustration involved.
You're not wrong. I was all about that trial and error approach.
Which is fine when you're 5. But when you're facing a high-stakes coding interview, you need a more structured approach.
That's where the instructions come in.
Exactly. And that's what this technique is all about. Breaking down those complex coding challenges into smaller, more manageable blocks.
Like following those step-by-step Lego instructions.
Yes. And just like those instructions, you want your code to be clear, logical, easy to follow.
Because if you can't even understand your own code 6 months from now, good luck explaining it to a potential employer.
Yeah. So true. In fact, the guide uses this really interesting example. Finding the maximum value in an array and its occurrences.
Okay, I've definitely stumbled through that one a few times.
Me too. But instead of just jumping into writing complex code, they break it down into those Lego blocks.
So you're not just trying to solve the whole thing at once.
Exactly. You're taking it one step at a time.
So first you define your variables.
Like laying out your Lego pieces.
Then you loop through the array, comparing elements.
Making sure those pieces fit together.
And updating your variables as you go.
Like swapping out a block for a bigger one if you find a new maximum value.
And finally, you've built your Lego creation. You've found the maximum value and how many times it appears.
And by breaking it down like that, you're not only making it clearer for yourself.
You're also demonstrating a really methodical thought process to the interviewer.
Which is exactly what they want to see.
They want to know that you can handle pressure, think critically, and come up with elegant solutions.
And that you don't just throw code at the wall and hope something sticks.
Exactly. It's about quality over quantity.
So true. But even with the best Lego instructions, sometimes things can still go wrong.
Oh yeah. Missing pieces, misinterpreting the diagrams. It happens to the best of us.
And that brings us to a really important part of the guide, navigating the interview minefield. It's all about identifying and avoiding those common pitfalls that can trip you up.
Those interview landmines.
Exactly. And the first one is something we've all been guilty of at some point, rushing to code without proper planning.
I've definitely been there.
Yeah.
You get so excited to start writing code that you forget to actually think things through.
It's like starting a road trip without checking the map or packing snacks. You might eventually reach your destination.
But it's going to be a bumpy ride.
And you might run out of gas along the way.
So true. Taking a moment to analyze the problem, to really understand the requirements before you even touch the keyboard is crucial.
Because if you don't, you might end up going down a rabbit hole writing a bunch of code that doesn't even address the actual problem.
And nothing screams, I'm not a strategic thinker, like presenting a solution to the wrong problem.
And it's not just about having a plan, it's about communicating that plan effectively.
Oh, absolutely. They want to see that you can articulate your thought process.
So don't be afraid to talk it out, even if it's just pseudocode on a whiteboard.
It shows you have a structured approach, which is so important in those high-pressure situations.
Okay, so we've talked about planning, but what about the code itself?
Ah, yes. Pitfall number 2. Writing unreadable code.
It's like that junk drawer in your kitchen. Everything's just kind of thrown in there.
And you're afraid to even open it because you might break something.
I feel seen.
Right. But seriously, taking the time to write clean, well-commented code.
It's like speaking their language.
Exactly. It shows you care about maintainability, collaboration.
Yeah.
All those things that make a good team player.
Because let's be real, MAA companies, they're all about teamwork.
Oh, yeah. You're not just coding in a vacuum. You're part of a larger ecosystem.
And that brings us to another crucial point, those soft skills.
So important. It's easy to get caught up in the technical stuff.
Especially when you're prepping for these interviews. It's like you're just cramming lines of code.
But those interviewers are looking at the whole package.
Communication, leadership, teamwork, all that good stuff.
Because at the end of the day, they want someone who can not only code, but who can also thrive in that fast-paced collaborative environment.
Someone who can explain their ideas clearly, work well with others, and maybe even take charge when needed.
Absolutely. Those are the qualities that really make someone stand out, especially in those leadership circles.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from finding your coder ikigai to dodging those interview landmines. Any final words of wisdom before we wrap things up?
Just remember that this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to learn and explore.
That's why we love these deep dives. Always something new to uncover.
Exactly. So keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself.
Because